Netflix series The Mind of a Chef and Cooked, the roots of Southern cooking are explored. We learn about different techniques of cooking and how our local resources can be used. Both shows discuss farming and how crops are utilized in Southern-style cooking. Cooked also touches on how America has turned to alternative ways of producing food. Food processing plants today are becoming more and more popular and are ruining the way we eat. I think we often believe farming is a safer method than processing foods, but various chemicals are used in both cases. Food production can have both indirect and direct impacts on the world around us. This makes us ask some questions. What are the impacts on the environment from the waste emitted by farming and food processing factories? Which method is safer in the long run? Farming has been utilized since the beginning of time. Although there are many different types, today we will focus on commercial farming. Farmers use chemicals such as pesticides and herbicides. The chemicals are used to keep the plants healthy and free of disease, keep bugs away, and kill unnecessary weeds. There are many different variations of these chemicals, some genetically modified with toxins and some organically made. Pesticide use has been on the decline for years due to the introduction of new production methods. Due to scientific advancements, the production of chemicals has shifted to make them more safe. However, chemicals are still heavily used in general terms. Where do these chemicals ultimately go? Depending on what type of chemical distribution method is used, the chemicals can end up anywhere. This can leave pesticides and other chemicals in a large quantity. When it rains, these chemicals run off and enter the ecosystem. Although the chemicals are diluted, the runoff still impacts the environment. Water quality decreases and becomes acidic. Contaminated groundwater can make aquatic life ill and eventually lead to death. Pesticides take a long time to decompose and stay in our water systems for years. The application of fertilizers on crops contribute to the emission of greenhouse gases and smog. Greenhouse gases are commonly known to have direct ties with global warming. Food processing plants are a relatively new phenomenon and becoming rapidly popular. In 2012, there were approximately 30,000 food manufacturing plants in the United States. Food processing plants produce a wide variety of food ranging from bread to cereal to dairy. However, the most commonly processed food group according to the USDA is meats. These factories are a leading toxic waste contributor. They also use fossil fuels and quite a few different chemicals. Chemicals generally include food additives such as color enhancers and stabilizers, flavor enhancers, and chemicals to extend the shelf life of the product. Chemicals include nitrate compounds, N-hexane, and ammonia. Because food processing factories are a newer advancement, not many studies have been performed to determine the extent of their environmental impacts. Many of these food additives are suspected carcinogens. These chemicals are not only dangerous to humans, but also to the environment. Fossil fuels, like fertilizers used in farming, contribute to the emission of greenhouse gases. Although many of the chemicals emitted have similar effects as those from farming do, the outcomes are different. Manufacturing uses a higher quantity of chemicals, and waste is not as contained as it should be. Although both food production methods have detrimental effects on the environment, farming appears to be safer chemical-wise. However, there are solutions to environmental problems. There are always alternative sources, such as organic farms. There are still pressing issues with this type of farming because chemicals, such as pesticides, are used. The best option for food production could quite possibly be to continue with what we are doing with some adjustments. From about 1970 and onward, scientific advances have been made to improve fertilizers and pesticides. Future scientific advances can be used to make synthetic chemicals that do what current ones do but are environmentally friendly. Basins could be created to collect runoff. Food processing is here to stay too and needs bigger changes. Since these factories are relatively new, more regulations could be put into law to better track what chemicals are emitted into the environment. Waste could be more carefully monitored to ensure chemicals do not enter our waterways. Stricter regulations could be added to the Pollution Prevention P2 Act that is currently in place by the Environmental Protection Agency. Current regulations are meant to prevent pollution before it occurs at its source and reduce overall pollution, but doesn't seem to be well enforced. Stricter guidelines can be signed into the bill to reduce chemical use and have designated areas for waste disposal that won't enter our ecosystem.